Today, we are fixing the Orlando Magic shooting, the internal fixes that prove the Magic are maybe on the right track, and the external fixes they need in the free agency and draft today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 11th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the media here in Orlando since back in 2011, way long ago. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, let's fix the Magic shooting. Why the process for the Orlando Magic is still in the right place, and the external fixes the Magic may use to address those pesky shooting issues. We'll get to that today on Locked On Magic. But before we do any of that, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Be sure to check out Locked On NBA, Locked On Thunder, Locked On Pacers for your NBA Finals fix throughout the NBA Finals, all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I am not a pessimist when it comes to Orlando Magic shooting. It's bad. I'm not here to tell you it's not good. I'm not here to tell you, oh, the Magic don't need to worry about anything. They'll be fine. I'm not here to be a denialist or to sugarcoat the shooting issue. The Magic shot 32%, barely, if that, from three last year. They were not good enough from three, and it got to the point where, teams were happy to let the Magic shoot threes. There's a push and pull on all this that I'm about to say, and part of it, is yes, teams are happy to let the Magic shoot threes, and the Magic are not going anywhere. They're not winning championships. They're not getting the best out of Paolo Banchero, the best out of Franz Wagner, until they as a team shoot better from three. Regardless of what we want to say, the Magic's most successful stretches of the last two seasons came when they made threes. Whether it was making threes at 35, 36% after the All-Star break in the 2024 season, or whether it was shooting 36% over the last 18 games of the regular season and finding just a little bit of rhythm. I've said this a million times throughout the season. All the Magic needed to do was shoot average from three. Shoot 33% from three. They were like 22-9 when they shot 33% from three. It does not take much for the Magic to get the most out of their three-point shooting. Imagine if they were actually a good three-point shooting team. Imagine if they could actually make threes. If they were an elite three-point shooting team, they'd be one of the best teams in the league. As Chris Mannix put it on the Kevin O'Connor show, the Magic already have a championship-level defense. All they need is a little bit of offense, a little bit of shooting. And that's borne itself out throughout the course of the last two seasons. So yes, how are the Magic going to address their shooting? We're going to get to some names. We're going to get to the external things that could boost the Magic. And frankly, the Magic should not be drafting anybody who is not a shooter. If you can't make shots, you're not on this. You're not being acquired by the team. If you already can't make shots, if you're already on the team, you're grandfathered in. I think you'll be okay. But the Magic need to find shooting. And this is why I am still very bullish on the Magic as a shooting team. This is why I am not giving up hope on the Magic as much as everyone wants to bang on the Magic for not making threes. I'm here to and put a lot of blame on Jamal Mosley, frankly, and I'm just like, he can't make the shots for them. I'm here to tell you and explain why the Magic have a good internal process to make threes. This was a big talking point last year. You could probably go back to this time last year, and I was probably screaming from the top of my lungs that the Magic's problem was not necessarily them making threes. They needed to make more threes, but they didn't take enough. In the 2024 season, they finished 29th in the league with 31.2 3-point attempts per game. And I sat in this chair, I sat in this moment, I sat in this space, and I said, the Magic need to take more threes. The problem is not necessarily about percentage, although it was about volume. They needed to make more threes. They needed to take more threes. This season, so last season, 2024, 31.2 3-point attempts per game, 35.2% on threes. 24th in the league. They got to 35.8% after the All-Star break, like I mentioned. This season, 31.8% on threes. Not a good percentage. Worst percentage in the league. Flirted with the worst 3-point percentage in like more than a decade. But they did accomplish one element that they needed to accomplish. They took more threes. 35.3 per game, 23rd in the league. Now, look, the Magic shot so poorly from three, it did get back to a point where the Magic were taking fewer threes. They were passing up open threes. They were not looking and hunting for threes the way that they were earlier in the season when these fresh ideas were taking root. So we have to acknowledge that. The Magic should not be taking more threes with the way they shot last year. Having said that, this is still the right track. The Magic taking more threes, and especially taking more high-quality threes, was a fact of last year. I am for the Magic shooting around 35 threes per game. I think that is about the number. They probably need to be at 36, 37, maybe 38. I don't think the Magic need to be Boston. They don't need to be shooting 50 threes in a game. They don't even need to be flirting with 40. 40 is probably too many for this team. But if they shoot 35% on 38 threes per game, that is a significant upgrade to the offense already. A lot of the solutions to the Magic's problems are just make shots. But let me get process with you here. Last year, Orlando ended up shooting 18.8 wide open three-pointers per game. That's where the closest defender is 6 or more feet away, according to NBA.com's tracking stats. And at least in the NBA circles that I talk to and trying to assess what these stats mean, most of us agree the wide open threes category on NBA.com actually means something. The open, which is 4 to 6 feet, which I often include as saying, like, look, the Magic were not taking bad shots, at least statistically. The 4 to 6 feet, the open shots, probably mislabeled. So we're only going to focus on the wide open threes. Threes where, it would be a pretty intense closeout to contest the shot. Last year, 2025, Magic took 18.8 wide open threes per game. That was up from 18.2 per game in 2024. So Magic got more of these quality shots. They made 35.1% of these shots. They ranked 17th in attempts and, of course, last in percentage. Again, they shot 18.2 of these wide open threes per game in 2024 and made 37.8% of them last year. That was about the league's median, right? Like right in the dead center of the league. So look, the Magic's process to get open shots is fine. The Magic can get open shots. Of course, they can get more of these open shots. Corner threes per game, to me, is the big one. Orlando averaged 9.8 corner threes per game last year. And this is something I've been a little obsessed with because when Jamal Mosley first got here, the Magic were taking like no corner threes. They were like near the bottom of the league in corner threes. And the reason you like corner threes is A, closer shot. It's the closest 3-point shot you can have. B, typically the only way you get corner threes is through ball rotation and ball movement. So if you're getting a lot of corner threes, it means the ball is moving. It's hopping around the horn, kicking out to the corners, getting quality shots. These are the threes you want to have. They were 14th in the league in corner threes per game last year. Early in the season, they were leading the league. This has been a stat I've been obsessed with for 2 years. The Magic made only 35.4% of these shots. That's 28th in the league. Compared to 2024, the Magic took only 8.5 corner threes per game, made 36.7%. So even in the playoffs, the Magic still managed 18 wide open threes per game. A little bit down from their regular season average, but still pretty solid. They made only 28.9% of these shots. So, look, I'm not saying anything that isn't crazy. It's not rocket science here. All these numbers are great. The Magic just don't make enough shots. If the Magic made shots, we wouldn't be worried about a lot of things right now. But the point I want to make here is year over year, the Magic got more quality three-point looks this season than they did last season. The Magic got the kind of three-point shots an offense is designed to get. Now, again, how many of this is defenses being like, okay, go ahead, take that three. We don't think you're going to make it. Certainly that's part of this problem. That's certainly part of it. Maybe the volume is actually lower too, because at a certain point, and you could see this watching, and I don't blame players for doing this, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner did not trust to move the ball to the next guy, to kick the ball out to three-point shooter. Paolo especially got to a point at times where he was like, you know what? My mid-range jumper is a higher percentage shot than that open three. And honestly, that may not be wrong. That may actually statistically be the right call. So obviously the answer here is the process may not be broken. The Magic may be able to get quality three-point looks. The problem is they got to make them. And I think for most of us, we understand that's not going to happen solely through internal improvement. Franz Wagner could become a better three-point shooter. Jalen Suggs could get back to his solid three-point shooting. Paolo Banchero could be a better three-point shooter. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope could bounce back to his normal. That would all be great. But it's going to take some external fixes too. So, who are the Magic looking at? What are the latest ideas to find some shooting? We'll talk a little bit about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. There is nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped to a personal oasis. If you are waiting to update your patio this season to enjoy the outdoors, Wayfair has made it so easy to turn it into a space that feels like yours, comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer. Wayfair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space: conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set the vibe. It's like giving your backyard the resort feel without the resort price tag. It's hot outside here in Orlando, in Florida. You don't want to spend too much outside, but there's just like that perfect window, that perfect like 30 to 45 minutes right after the storm ends. It's still a little cool from the humidity of the storm. The sun isn't quite up to full bore yet. The clouds are still kind of hanging around. That's the time you want to be outside, be out in your space. And if you can get it covered, even better, because while we don't want to spend too much time outside right now because of the heat, we want to be comfortable when we are out there. Delivery with Wayfair is free, fast, and totally hassle-free, even the larger items. And whether you're hosting friends or just unwinding with a book, it feels so good to have your own private retreat that fits your style on top of that. Don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. There are obviously the big focus of this offseason for the Orlando Magic is finding that shooter. We are expecting the Orlando Magic to be fairly active in the trade market. It has been reported already, and it's not a secret anymore. The Orlando Magic are looking for a guard and probably looking for a lead guard as much as anything else. They are looking for the names that we all know. I mean, again, there's nothing concrete maybe tying the Magic to any specific name. I will mention this. We're going to talk about some names. They are the names that we all know. They are the names we all love. The only kind of rumor that really concretely ties the Magic to something is the Nickeil Alexander-Walker stuff that we talked about last week and earlier this week, I believe. I believe we had them both. That's the reality. You know, Darius Garland stuff was completely shut down, but throw him in there too. You know, as kind of a sign of what the Magic are chasing. They're looking for veteran sharpshooters who can create a little bit off the dribble and add not only to the shooting, but the playmaking. Orlando's looking for some volume shooters. They're looking for a major guard to add to their lineup. Whether that is Darius Garland, and again, reporting from Jake Fisher of the Sideline Substack, suggested that the Magic and Cavs have not even broached the subject. It's kind of been all fan-generated, all media-generated interests and kind of ideas and spitballing. Like I mentioned, you got to at least go through the exercise a little bit. I don't mind that, even if I don't think it's the right move for the team. The big moves, we've all talked Trae Young at some point. We've all talked LaMelo Ball at some point. Obviously, like I did my Anthony Simons trade in the Locked On mock draft. He is an excellent three-point shooter, a guy who can create his own shot, go off for big game, make 4, 5, 6 threes in a game, which the Magic just do not have right now. Jalen Suggs will sometimes hit 4 or 5, but the Magic just don't have a guy that's just going to go off on multiple nights and just be a constant threat to go off like that. Say what you want about Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross's percentage was terrible. Every team in the league feared him going off for 2, 3 threes in a row and just lighting the Magic on fire and getting them going like that. We've talked a little bit about Colin Sexton, who's a 40% three-point shooter, good three-point shooter, excellent spot-up three-point shooter, especially who could also attack off the dribble, play a little point guard. Austin Reeves, another name like that. The names we talked about in free agency are Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The Magic are at least reported to be considering clearing away their team options, accessing the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, and going after Nickeil Alexander-Walker. An excellent three-point shooter, again, maybe on the same volume as Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but someone for the Minnesota Timberwolves that had some big games, made a bunch of threes, was a good floor spacer off the bench. It's players like him. There's been some suggestion at least, I don't think it's concrete reporting, but there's suggestions that the Magic could kind of redo what they wanted to do last year in free agency. Malik Monk has been a name mentioned in Magic rumors, not necessarily tying him directly, but saying, hey, the Magic were interested in Malik Monk last year. Why wouldn't they be interested in him again? My understanding and kind of my the way that I saw things kind of play out is the Magic, I think we're interested in Malik Monk. And when he signed an extension with the Sacramento Kings, the Magic kind of backed off. Obviously the Magic backed off. He was no longer available. They pivoted to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Malik Monk, with his playmaking ability, his ability to attack off the dribble, and that ability to catch fire and make a lot of threes, although he had a poor season last year on the first year of a 4-year deal, Malik Monk is still an option if the Magic want to try and buy low on him with the Kings. And I don't think the Kings are going to sell low on him. I think they think this is still a sell high opportunity for them as well. There's even been some suggestion that maybe the Magic should fish around and say, hey, Dallas, we'd be interested in Klay Thompson. If you're looking to kind of build your defense, we got some defenders that you might want. Who knows? But this has always been my point. It's not about the individual names. All of us would agree that every player I just named is a good shooter. Or if their percentages don't reflect how good of a shooter they are good enough. They are sparky enough. They are spurty enough. They are all kinds of made up words. It just means they can make a lot of threes in a row. They are good enough to shift the gravity of the Magic's offense. And as much as I do think internal development and internal improvement is going to have a big say in what the Magic end up being offensively, it should be very, very clear that what they have is not enough. The Magic need more. They cannot just rest on their laurels and say, oh, we're young, we'll get better. That add one more shooter, that's good enough. Clearly, that isn't good enough because Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was one of the best shooters available on last year's free agency market. Nobody could have foreseen him shooting 34%. And frankly, I do think he will bounce back. I think he'll be a 37, 38% three-point shooter next year. But adding just one shooter, especially a shooter who's not getting his own shots and kind of gets lost a little bit in the offense at times because the Magic's offense is pretty egalitarian, but it needs people who can attack, and it doesn't always kick out to the shooter. I think KCP struggled to kind of find his fit. Obviously, adding just one shooter isn't going to do the deal. The Magic needs something different. And so, yes, I think Orlando is looking for guys who can create their shot a little bit like Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, Austin Reeves, Malik Monk. I think they're looking for movement shooting like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like a Malik Monk who can shoot a little bit off the move, like Anthony Simons can shoot a little bit off the move too. They're looking for ways to get guys shots in different ways. Tying it all together, the Magic's process to get open shots is not bad per se. They've got to make those shots, and the more they can get guys who are willing to shoot and create those shots, take a couple step backs perhaps, the better the Magic will be. It's about the diversity of their shooting as much as it is about anything else. And so at this point, I'll say this. At this point, I'm expecting the Magic to address their shooting with 2 veteran players. Again, I have no reporting to tell me whether this is true or not. I believe in the Nickeil Alexander-Walker stuff. I believe the Magic are going to explore that path. And if they get the indication that, NAW will sign a 3-year, $55 million, let's say 3 years, $55 million. Start them at that 14.1, start them at that number, and then mess around with the percentages from there. I do believe that is a thing the Magic are pursuing. And I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is, not the answer, not the only answer, but is an answer for the Magic. And on top of that, I think they're going to add another one of those big players that we're talking about. I think we are looking at the Magic adding 2 veteran shooters to this team one way or the other. We'll dive into the Kevin O'Connor thing tomorrow, I think. But I do believe that the Magic are going to be aggressive in that way. I do believe the Magic are going to push themselves in that way. And I think that the Magic will be able to find what they need in that offseason market. But like we said yesterday, shooting is just as important in the draft. Why the Magic are going to pass on some players that they typically really like because shooting matters that much. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Now that the NBA season's over, I have time to explore my other event interests. I'm not tied to Magic games being every other day. I get to actually look forward to things I want to go to. And look, I'm wearing my Welcome to Rockville shirt right now. When I went to see Linkin Park a few weeks ago, I found out one of my favorite bands was coming to Orlando last Monday. And I was like a little bit on the fence. Like I spent a lot of money on those tickets to Rockville, had a great time. And I was like, you know what? I've seen this band before. I want to see them again. They're one of my favorite bands. I went to go see Modest Mouse at House of Blues. And I was like, how am I going to get tickets this late in the process? Where am I going to get the best price for tickets? How am I going to know I am getting the best price for tickets? Well, with about a week to go before the show, I hopped on Game Time. I compared their price to all the other ticketing apps. I compared their price to the box office. And guess what? Game Time had the best price. Game Time had my tickets to the show. I still can't hear anything, but boy, did I have a great time watching Modest Mouse at House of Blues the other night. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats or standing room because it was general admission, even for the biggest events, whether it's the playoffs, whether it's a concert, whether it's anything. Prices on the app actually drop closer to the event, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. Like I said, I was watching tickets for this concert for a while, waiting to know when is the right price, when is the right time to go. I wrote it all down, just kind of tracking where things were, even on all the ticket sites. Consistently, Game Time had the best ticket price. And then I went on Game Time, bought my tickets. They delivered my tickets to my phone just like that, like very, very quickly. It's a cashless, ticketless event, a paperless event. They took care of everything so easily. It was no stress at all. Game Time made it so easy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON. NBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. If you did not listen to our episode yesterday, to my episode yesterday, I had Rafael Barlow of Locked On NBA Big Board on. We talked all things NBA draft, kind of began breaking down what the Magic are focused on, what the Magic usually focus on, what they potentially need to pass on, the prospects that we're looking at, kind of dove a little bit into some of the prospects that we're looking at. And so obviously, the draft is part of what the Magic are doing in the trade market. Maybe the Magic need to include both picks. And so maybe talking about rookies and talking about draft picks is irrelevant, is not important. Maybe the Magic are planning to use one of their picks. Maybe the Magic are using to combine their picks to move up. Everything is possible and everything is on the table for the Orlando Magic. So I think that part is really, really, really important. And that's why we have to be prepared for everything. So who are the shooters in this draft? Who are the guys the Magic need to stay away from? Obviously, a lot of Magic fans are focused on Walter Clayton. We did a whole episode on him. There's definitely interest in Walter Clayton. Todd Golden, the head coach of the Florida Gators, confirmed that. Clayton is obviously like a prototypical kind of spark plug point guard. He almost seems like a better version of what Cole Anthony was coming out of college, where he's going to look to get his own. He's not much of a playmaker, not much of a creator, but he can self-create shots. He'll hit spot up threes. He does all those things really, really well. I'm not going to sit here and advocate for one player or the other quite yet. We're going to wait, to see how the draft shakes out. And frankly, the draft is just educated guessing. I'm not going to be angry if the Magic don't pick my guy, because frankly, there are good arguments for Walter Clayton. I agree with a lot of those arguments. There are good arguments for Jace Richardson, the Michigan State guard, who shot 40% from three last year, had to do a lot of self-creation, did not get as many spot-up opportunities, and still was very, very successful. A solid finisher, a really good athlete. Good wingspan for a player who measured in at 6 feet, 0.25 without shoes at the NBA draft combine. It measured in smaller than people were expecting, which I think dinged him a little bit. Jace Richardson's going to be there at 16 too, and maybe even at 25. I think there's good arguments for either of those players. And frankly, both of those players fill needs for the Magic. You can pick whoever you want out of those two. You can say, I am a Walter Clayton guy. I am a Jace Richardson guy. You're both right. And you should. And frankly, there are reasons to draft them. There are reasons not to draft them. We'll do what? Honestly, this is inspiring me. We'll do a whole episode on it. We'll do a whole episode of Walter Clayton versus Jace Richardson. Take Jason Richardson. He's awesome. Jace Richardson versus Walter Clayton. We'll do a whole episode on that next week, because that is actually worth diving into and thinking about a little bit more. But there is no right answer. There is only the answer the Magic give. And if the Magic take their guy and it's not your guy, you can't be super upset about it until we see what the results are. Until we see, oh, no, Walter Clayton turned into a really good player. Jace Richardson flamed out, or Jace Richardson turned into a really good player. We'll see. We'll let hindsight be the judge of that decision. The draft is just educated guessing. That I'm sorry, I don't get worked up over teams not taking the guy that I really like. A, because I'm wrong a lot on the draft, and B, it is just educated guessing. It is just, who knows how these kids are going to turn out, what's going to happen. And so I'm not, as long as you, I say this all the time, as long as you act rationally, I'm going to be okay with it. The Jett Howard pick I had problems with, because I was like, I didn't have Jett Howard on my board. He doesn't defend. That's kind of been proven true. So there are definitely times to criticize. Don't worry, I will do that if it's warranted. But that's the thing too. The Magic needs shooting so bad. And so trading up for a guy like Cedric Howard proved himself to be a pretty solid shooter through 3 years at the Division I level. Had the injury last year, tore his labrum, missed almost all of last season. Obviously, Duke still liked him enough to accept him as a transfer. I'm cool with trading up for Cedric Howard. Checks a lot of boxes the Magic like. Good athlete, good length, should be a good defender, excellent three-point shooter at the college level. We'll see if it translates. Trading up for Kasparas Giakoušonis. You heard us talk about him on the show yesterday. His percentages don't math for me. He shot about 34% from three. He's widely considered like one of the better three-point shooters in this draft. Watched him a little bit at Illinois. I'm a Northwestern guy, so Illinois guys weird me out a little bit anyway. Watched him a little bit at Illinois. Like, he's good. He can get to his spots. He can make shots. I'm not sold he's NBA good. And I think he's a tweener and roll. Like, he's not quite a point guard. He's not tall enough to be a shooting guard. I'm not a fan of trading up for Kasper Siakashonis. Now, it could prove me wrong. Could be a great shooter. Could just be he was on the ball too much and being more of a spot-up threat, being more of an off-ball threat will serve him better. I don't know if he showed enough of that in college to make me believe that. Liam McNeely is another really good example. People were surprised. I kind of spoiled the Locked On mock draft for some people. I'll spoil it here. Spoiler alert. Liam McNeely didn't get drafted in the first round of our Locked On mock draft. There are not enough people, at least in our group, that like him. He shot like 33%, 32% from three. He is widely considered a really good three-point shooter. Yes, I know he had an ankle injury that slowed him down at the end of the season, but not like the numbers aren't numbering for me. If he's that good of a three-point shooter, why is he shooting that poorly? I know he had that big game against Creighton, and there are some impressive things about him. I like his size, but there are real concerns about Liam McNeely. Like, I'm not in on him, to be perfectly honest. And like, you look at this draft, there are no like pure shooters. There are no like, that guy is a Klay Thompson style shooter. That just doesn't exist in this draft. And so the Magic do have to find players who can grow into being shooters, who can do the things they want to do and can grow into shooters. Like Nick Clifford has steadily developed as a three-point shooter over the course of his college career, does a lot of other things. You're not drafting him for his shooting, but his shooting is an essential element of his success. I mentioned Cedric Coward. I mentioned Walter Clayton. I mentioned Jace Richardson. Those are guys that the Magic are going to look at. Rasheer Fleming from St. Joseph's. Big Rasheer Fleming fan. Would not shock me if the Magic take him at 16. And especially considering, which we'll talk about tomorrow, the Kevin O'Connor reporting about Jonathan Isaac, Rasheer Fleming gives you permission to trade Jonathan Isaac. If you take Rasheer Fleming, not that Jonathan Isaac becomes redundant, because Jonathan Isaac is a better defender than Rasheer Fleming is, but Rasheer Fleming can do enough of those defensive things. Was a stocks machine at St. Joseph's and a solid spot-up shooter. It's certainly improving, but has come a long way, and I think most scouting reports I read say he's an excellent spot-up shooter. That's the path the Magic want to go. And so you look at a lot of these players, the Magic are going to need shooting from this draft. Now, as I've mentioned before, the draft works hand in hand with the offseason. If the Magic are chasing Nickeil Alexander-Walker and acquiring another guard, getting another guard wouldn't hurt, but you got to find minutes for these guys too. And so adding a wing, adding a big, like a Ryan Kalkbrenner. I don't like Kalkbrenner. I don't think he's going to be good enough defensively. That's a big part of his thing is he led the Big East in blocks. Good shot blocker, big body at 7'1", can step out and hit threes. Maxime Reynard of Stanford, another really good big prospect, double machine, improving three-point shooter as well, can maybe step out and develop that part of his game. Those are options to help boost the center depth. Again, I just don't think the Magic want to rely on rookie centers again because of the Wendell Carter question. Yes, Wendell Carter played the most games of his career last year at 68, 64, 65, something like that. You're still going to have to plan on him missing 15 to 20 games until he proves otherwise. So you need a starter caliber backup center, especially with Mo Wagner out probably until December. So that's something else to think about and consider for this Magic team as well. But as I've said, there are options in this draft. I would honestly, I would even be okay with Nolan Traore. I have in my mock, I had Nolan Traore falling to 25. I don't think he'll fall that far. It's just, like my preference and my biases come down to, the Magic would take this guy. So of course the Heat would take this guy. Nolan Traore, I really like. I think he took some big steps as a shooter. He checks a lot of boxes, but like Yegor Demon, we talked a lot about him yesterday. Yegor Demon checks all the boxes the Magic typically like out of guards, 6'8", 6'9", plays point guard. Dude can't shoot. He was sub 30 from three, sub 70 from free throw line. That's a red flag. Stay away. Um, 2 years ago, yeah, maybe the Magic take a chance on him because he fits the type that they like, but you don't do that now. You're trying to win now. Yegor Demon's not going to help you win right now. So that's how things have changed for the draft as the Magic try to add shooting. Again, ultimately, the Magic just got to make shots. They got to find guys who can make shots. Creation's a big part of that. Better passing is a big part of that. And shooting with confidence and making your shots is the part of it. So, yes, the Magic are going to have to address their shooting externally. They're going to have to add some external growth to their shooting. They're also going to have to internally make threes. And that's something we can't predict. That's something we can't make assumptions on it. I assume the Magic will be better than they were last year. It's hard to be worse. But they need their players to step up and be better from three. And if that happens, the Magic's three-point shooting will be better. It will be fixed, and we'll actually see if the Magic can roll out a functioning offense. That's my fix. Make shots. It's not hard. It's not complicated. Add players who can make shots. Make shots. It's not much more beyond that. You just listen to 36 minutes to get to that conclusion. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of these fun places to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, including all my player evaluations, check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to Locked On Magic and making it your first listen of the day, go make Locked On NBA Big Board your second listen of the day. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow, who we had on the show yesterday, reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Phil Prosper. We'll be back tomorrow to chat about the latest rumors. We'll talk about that Kevin O'Connor thing. We'll revisit some Jalen Suggs stuff. I think it's worth revisiting as well. We'll get to all that tomorrow on Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Prosper. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.